the reflection.
Very surreal. So, I'm here, I believe, for the same reasons that everyone else is here, which is the passion that we feel, and that is the passion and the love for the political revolution that is the Bernie Sanders campaign. I don't think we've lost that since the last election. I think if anything it's gotten bigger. I think, yes, it's grown. There are more of us. And part of that comes from the fact that Bernie does something to our soul. He has this ability to speak to our hearts, and he says things to us that make us feel something that no other candidate does. And I think everyone has a story of how Bernie has affected them, so I'm just going to share a story with me, and I'm going to do my best not to cry through it. So, last campaign, Bernie had left Iowa and came to New Hampshire. It was a Tuesday, and a small group of us met him in a really random parking lot, and he stood in the back of a bed of a truck with Jane and just gave us this little speech. 2 days later, I was at work, and mind you, at this point in my life, I was in very, very early recovery from alcohol addiction. So I'm at work, and the cravings are really bad, my mental health is not doing good, and I just didn't think I was going to make it through the day. So I went into the bathroom at work, I got down on my hands and knees, and I prayed to God that I need a sign, I need something, I need hope, because I just don't know if I'm going to make it today. And that's what early recovery looks like. So I go to the same cafe that I went to every single day for lunch, and I'm sitting there having lunch, just holding on for dear life, and in walks Bernie Sanders, his wife, and his son. And this wave of hope hit me, and I held on for another day. About 6 months ago, I relapsed after 3 years of recovery, but I am very grateful to stand up here sober. That I feel and I felt is universal. We all feel it. And there is no doubt in my mind that in order to get Mr. Donald Trump out of the White House, we have to get Bernie Sanders in. Yes. No other candidate has the people power, no other candidate has the record and the history and the legacy that Bernie Sanders has. And this army that we have, this army for the political revolution, will get Bernie to the White House. Thank you.
Hi folks. My name is Justin Messmer, and in 2016 I had the absolute privilege of working on Bernie Sanders' 2016 campaign right here in the state of New Hampshire. I first saw Bernie speak at an opening of his political campaign office in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and I knew right away that he was a once-in-a-lifetime candidate. Bernie's authenticity and his genuine care for important issues that matter to working Americans and young people like myself, like single-payer health care, student loan debt, and combating climate change, and getting the money out of politics, it's astounding. At the time in 2016, I was only 17 years old. And knowing full well that I couldn't vote in the primary, I decided to help out the only way I could. So I signed up to volunteer, I got started knocking doors, and I was absolutely honored to be given the opportunity to work for the campaign as an intern. During my time there, I worked alongside some of the best, most dedicated people I've ever had the privilege of meeting in my life. And I had a really profound experience while I was on the campaign, right in Deerfield, New Hampshire. I encountered a large number of people who told me that they had never had a campaign come to their door. This, to me, speaks to the fact that we're willing to go where no one else is, to talk to folks about the issues, and to reach out to those who feel like they don't have a voice. Now, folks, it's 2019. Bernie's pushed the dialogue on a lot of important issues, like single-payer health care. A majority of Americans now want it. Amazon has adopted a $15 minimum wage because of Bernie. And Bernie is been a historic victory here in the New Hampshire primary. New Hampshire. And now we've got a second chance. Thank you so much.
For Sherrilltown.
Good afternoon. My name is Sherrilltown, and I'm a proud local 1984 member. I'm the Chapter 9 President for Glencliff Home, and I'm a huge supporter of the man I'm welcoming here today. I have two short stories to tell. The first one is about a job from my past. I worked in a truck garage 21 years ago for 9 years as an assistant shop supervisor, where I worked 50+ hours a week, being paid $2 an hour less because I was a female. Well, I had enough knowing how unfair it was, so I moved on to my next and current job for the state of New Hampshire, where my union makes sure we're all treated and paid fairly, where we negotiate raises. My last story makes me prouder, because we're pretty awesome. In 2016, some of our local 1984 members went to Detroit for the SEIU International Convention, where the international backed a presidential candidate that our local did not. I went with my late good friend and union brother, Ken Roos, who was my favorite black man. He and I brought our Bernie shirts proudly with huge smiles. We were greeted with many requests for photos, and we got lots of handshakes. We were thrilled we got to feel the Bernie love. So, I'm asked, why am I a huge fan? Well, Bernie's the real deal. He wants good and fair pay for the hard work we all do. He wants affordable health care and college education that doesn't leave students with years of crushing debt. My daughter's one of those. She's putting off having a family because she can't afford it. So, he wants racial equality and justice for all. So, I'm pleased, no, I'll correct that. I'm thrilled to be healing the burn again. I'm glad this week to welcome our next President of the United States to our beautiful state, and I'm honored to be supporting him to victory. All right.
Author and attorney Ginny Towler.
Hello, Granite Staters. Hello, America. My name is Ginny Towler. I came to New Hampshire to be a caregiver to my mother, Dr. Carmen Buford Page. What was supposed to be a short visit to look after her when her second husband died has ended up being a major part of my life. I moved to Dover almost 2 decades ago. This is home now. I am a writer at heart, but I earned a very modest living as a plaintiff's lawyer. I have supported every Democratic nominee for president as long as I've been a lawyer.
Pictures like wine glasses, real glasses outside of
I sincerely don't mean to objectify your husband, Mrs. Sanders, wherever you are. But I, along with millions of others, fell in love with your husband. And what is it? What is it about Bernie? Is it his smile? Is it his purposeful being?
shit.
Is it his thick, scruffy, working-class New York accent? But I think this t-shirt says it all. The man with glasses. He sees us. He sees each one of us, no matter where we come from. He sees the humanity in all of us. He sees our daily struggles in trying to live. He sees us watching our wallets when we have to decide which bill to pay. He sees us as we develop allergies to chemicals in our house products while we eat additives in our food. He sees us pay weekly for bottled water because we no longer trust the water coming out of our faucets, and not just in Flint, Michigan. He sees a country that doesn't sell new products. It sells pharmaceutical drugs with friendly and fuzzy sounding nicknames because prescription drugs are offered. He sees corporations profiteering off of the environment while ignoring our environmental problems. He sees U.S. taxpayers being told to be patriotic about wars we don't even know we're fighting. In places that would take most of us a minute to find on a map, he sees it all, and he wants to do something about it. Bernie Sanders' foresight. Hold on. Up here. Bernie Sanders' foresight, in hindsight, is now prescient. There is too much at stake during these perilous times. We must be careful about whom we choose to change the course of this country. I challenge everyone, go home, do your own research.
Not yet.
This is the question I want you to research. Ask yourself, research, which candidate for president has accomplished the most since 2016? Which person has accomplished the most? Who has had the greatest positive impact on our lives in the past 2 years? 2 years. That person deserves our vote. Please join me in this great honor of welcoming to New Hampshire, the first primary state, the home of the Black Heritage Trail, the next president of the United States, Bernie Sanders.
souls, but frankly, we did not expect to see so many people here this morning. Thank you. Let me thank, pardon the Spins for their music. Let me thank Mr. Casey and Justin Mesmer and Cheryl Town and Ginny Towler for their remarks, and thank Richard Gula, the State Employees Association, was going to be here, but guess the roads kept them away. Where's Richard? He's here! All right. The roads did not keep them away. All right, we got a lot to talk about because we are living in an extraordinary moment in American history. We're living in an unprecedented moment, which is why we need an unprecedented campaign. And thank you all very much for being here and being part of that campaign. Let me be very clear. This campaign is not only going to win the Democratic nomination, this campaign is not only going to defeat Donald Trump, the most dangerous president, but with your help, this campaign is going to transform our country and finally, create an economy and a government which works for all of us, not just the 1%. Today, I want to welcome all of you to a campaign which says loudly and proudly that the underlying principles of our government will not be greed, will not be kleptocracy, will not be hatred and lies. The underlying principles of our government will not be racism, sexism, xenophobia, homophobia, and religious bigotry. Principles that our government will work under will be based on justice. Economic justice, social justice, racial justice, and environmental justice. Those are the principles that we believe in New England, and those are the principles that will underlie our government. Today, I want to welcome you to a campaign which tells the powerful special interests who control so much of the economic and political life of our country that we will no longer accept their greed, which is destroying the middle class. An unprecedented level of greed, which has resulted in our country having more income and wealth inequality today than at any time since the Gilded Ages of the 1920s. And it is worse today than in almost any major country on earth. No, we are very clear and unapologetic in stating that we will not stand idly by and allow 3 families in America to own more wealth than the bottom half of the American people. While the very, very rich get much richer, over 20% of our children in this country live in poverty. Veterans who put their lives on the line to defend us sleep out on the streets, and seniors in New Hampshire, Vermont, all over this country cannot afford their prescription drugs. We will no longer accept 46% of all new income going to the top 1%. Hampshire, and in Vermont, and all over this country, there are millions of people who are working 2 or 3 jobs just to pay the bills, and over half of our people in this country today are living paycheck to paycheck, frightened to death that if their car breaks down, they're not going to be able to get to work. And if they can't get to work, they're going to get fired. And if they get fired, they're not going to be able to take care of their kids. We have people all over this country who are scared to death and worried about what happens if their kid gets sick because they don't have enough money to take that child to the doctor. We will no longer accept a situation in which, in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, our younger generation will have, if we do not change it, a lower standard of living than their parents. They're earning lower wages than their parents did. They go down in the world with higher debt than their parents did. Housing for many of them is unaffordable, and they have less mobility. Not to mention the fact that we are graciously leaving the younger generation with a $22 trillion national debt. Now, I have 4 kids and 7 grandchildren, 3 of them right here in New Hampshire. And it is not acceptable to me that for those kids, the projection is downward. I believe in upward mobility, not downward mobility. It is not just a grossly unfair economic system that we are going to deal with. It is also a corrupt political system which is undermining American democracy. I know that this is a very radical idea in terms of what's going on in America today, but we in New England have an old-fashioned idea that democracy is about one person, one vote, not billionaires. Whether Mr. Trump or Mitch McConnell like it or not, we are going to overturn this disastrous Citizens United. For public funding of elections. Because I want any person in this room, any person in America who wants to run for office, no matter what their political views may be, I want them to be able to run for office regardless of their income, and I do not want to see them having to be dependent on big money interest to run a decent campaign. This is my first event, our first event here in New Hampshire in this campaign. Let me offer a very special thanks to the people of New Hampshire. In 2000, as all of you will remember, in 2016, this is where the political revolution took off. Thank you, New Hampshire. Here in New Hampshire in 2015, we were way behind. I think we were 30 or 40 points down, according to the polls. Further, the ideas that we were talking about then, I want you to put on your memory caps and go back just a few years ago. The ideas that we were talking about then were considered by establishment politicians and mainstream media to be radical and extreme. Nobody in America was going going to support those ideas. Now, you remember this. Raising the minimum wage to a living wage, too radical. Oh my God, can't do that. Guaranteeing health care to all people as a right, too radical. Creating up to 15 million jobs by investing $1 trillion to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure, too radical. Aggressively combating climate change, too radical. Reforming our broken criminal justice system and our broken immigration system, too radical. Not having a super PAC and not having to beg wealthy people for campaign contributions, ending the power of superdelegates and the Democratic. As all of you will recall, a funny thing happened in New Hampshire over that year. On primary day, we didn't end up 30 or 40 points behind. On primary day, we won a very strong victory here in New Hampshire. Which was the very first victory that we won. And that victory, right here in New Hampshire, led us to win victories in 21 other states around the country. Led us to win over 13 million votes, over 1,700 delegates to the Democratic Convention, and to me, most importantly, more votes from young people, Black and white and Latino, Asian American and Native American than Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton combined. Just in passing, thought I'd mention this. Those ideas that we talked about when we came here to New Hampshire 4 years ago, ideas that seemed so very radical at that time. Well, today, virtually all of those ideas are supported by a majority of the American people, and they are being supported by Democratic candidates from school board to President of the United States. To the people of New Hampshire, let me say that you helped begin the political revolution in 2016, and with your help on this campaign, we are going to complete what we started here. Say to you what I say all of the time. It's not Bernie, it's not me, it is us. As I'm going to mention in a moment, when we talk about us, not me, it sounds like nice political rhetoric, it sounds like a good bumper sticker. But trust me, it is much deeper than that, and I'll tell you why that is the case. The reality is that in America today, given the incredible power that the special interests have, here's the truth. Not many people will tell you this. No president, no matter how well-intentioned, no matter how decent that person may be, can in fact do it alone. Because the special interests have so much wealth, so much power, so much influence over the media, that no one president can do it alone. We've got to end that mythology. We cannot do it with one president. We have to do it with a mass movement of millions of people standing up and fighting. I'm not talking about this. This is not about This is about the fact that we need to stand together in this campaign to win the nomination. We need to defeat Trump together. But I will need your help the day after the election, the day after the inauguration. Are you guys prepared to sign up for the war of the wall? Our campaign here in New Hampshire, we say to the private health insurance companies, whether you like it or not, the United States of America will join every other major country on earth and guarantee health care to all people everywhere. Sound like a very radical idea to me, but you've got to say it. All Americans, each one of you, is entitled, as a human being, as American, to go to the doctor when you get sick and not have to worry about outrageous deductibles or co-payments or the fact that you may not have insurance. And all of you are entitled to know that if, God forbid, you end up in the hospital with a serious illness, your family does not have to go bankrupt in order to pay the hospital. Now, there is going to be a whole lot of debate about health care. And I know that the insurance companies and the drug companies will be spending hundreds of millions of dollars to protect their profits and their power. But as a nation, the American people are catching on. And that is, we will no longer accept the absurdity of paying almost twice as much per capita on health care as do the people of any other country. While at the same time, we have a lower life expectancy and worse healthcare outcomes than many other countries. So we are spending a fortune on healthcare, but we're getting relatively little back. Now I know, again, you ready for another radical idea? Yeah! The goal of healthcare should be to provide quality care to all in a cost-effective way, not to allow the insurance companies to make tens of billions of dollars in profit. Now let me tell you what you won't see on TV in the insurance company ads. In 2017, remember, 30 million people, no health insurance, more underinsured with high deductibles and high co-payments. In the midst of all of that, in 2017, the top 65 healthcare CEOs, guys who run the insurance companies, made $1.7 billion in compensation. Children can't afford to go to the doctor, but the CEO of United Health Group made $83 million in compensation. We need a healthcare system that invests in disease prevention, that invests in doctors, in nurses, in dentists, and in rural clinics so that everybody in this country has access to a doctor or a dentist. We do not need a healthcare system which allows insurance companies to make billions of dollars in profit and the CEOs of those companies to make outlandish compensation packages. So we say to the insurance companies, your day is coming. Yes, we are going to pass a Medicare for all single payer. I want to say a word to senior citizens who are on Medicare right now. Trump and some of his friends are saying Medicare for all is going to lower quality of health care for seniors. I know I shock you when I say this. Donald Trump is lying. I have to say that. Here is the truth. Medicare is a very strong program. It is a very popular program for our seniors, but it has gaps. It does not cover dental care, does not cover eyeglasses, does not cover hearing aids. Our Medicare for all will cover dental care. When we talk about healthcare, it is imperative that we talk about prescription drugs and the pharmaceutical industry. And our message to them is a simple one, and that is we will no longer allow them to rip off the American people and charge us by far the highest prices in the world for the medicine that we need. Way back when I was a congressman for Vermont in 1999, I will never forget this as long as I live. We took a busload of women, working class women, many of whom were struggling with breast cancer. And we left from northern Vermont, the St. Albans area. We went over the Canadian border to Montreal. And we walked in, and we had planned this out. We walked into a pharmacy in Montreal, and the women there were able to purchase tamoxifen, which is a widely prescribed breast cancer drug, for 1/10 of the price that they were paying in Vermont. And I will never forget tears. These are working class women struggling for their lives. Tears were coming out of their eyes as they were able to purchase the medicine they needed for 10% of what they were paying in Vermont. And on drug after drug, you go all over the world, you go to the UK, France, Scandinavia, Canada, wherever it is, the same exact drug and the same exact bottle made in the same exact factory is sold in this country for far, far higher prices. Meanwhile, last year the 5 major drug companies made $50 billion in profit. So we say to the drug companies that elderly people in Vermont and New Hampshire in this country are not going to have to cut their pills in half. We're not going to tolerate a situation where 1 out of 5 Americans cannot afford to fill the prescriptions their doctors write. Can you imagine how insane that is? You're sick, you go to the doctor's office, doctor writes out a prescription, you can't fill it. All right? Drug companies, that is going to end. We're going to roll off. We say to the fast food industry.
Fuck you!
Well, that's one way you could say it. I'm the United States Senators. I can't say it. But what we will say is start paying your employees a living wage. Workers all over this country who are trying to get by on $8, $9, $10 an hour. And the truth is that nobody can do that. You can't put a roof over your head, you can't buy food, you can't take care of your kids, you just can't do it. And that is why so many of our people are working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. In my view, there's a very simple proposition out there that I believe, and that is that anybody in this country who works 40 hours a week should not be living in poverty. Forward and below-wage employers, we are going to raise the minimum wage in this country from $7.25 an hour to a living wage $15 an hour. share with you the kind of progress that we are making. 4 years ago, when I was here in New Hampshire and we talked about the idea of a $15 an hour minimum wage, it seemed like an impossible dream because we were more than doubling the federal minimum wage. Well, since then, I'm proud to tell you that 5 states in this country have already passed legislation to raise the minimum wage. And just last week, legislation that I've offered in the Senate, same in the House, just last week, the U.S. House Committee on Labor and Education reported a bill out that will raise the federal minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $15. And that bill will pass the House in the next few weeks. Struggle in the Senate. So do everything you can to your friends all over this country. Working people can no longer work for starvation wages. We're going to raise that minimum wage to $15 an hour. By the way, in addition to states moving in the right direction, in addition to the federal government beginning to move, some of you may know that we put enough pressure on Amazon and Disney, so that they have now raised their minimum wage for at least there's an issue out there that doesn't get anywhere near the attention that it deserves. And that is that you know and I know, and every psychologist who studies the issue understands, that the most important time of a human being's life are 0 through 4. That's when human beings develop intellectually and emotionally. And yet, throughout this country, we have a dysfunctional child care system, which is unfair to the children and unfair to their parents. So today, we stand before you and say that we will pass universal, affordable child care in this country. To our young people, that we want you to get the best education that you can, regardless of the income of your family. We live in a competitive global economy. We used to have the best educated workforce in the world. That is no longer the case. And that is why today, I state what I stated here 4 years ago, and we're making progress on this issue. We are going to make public colleges and universities tuition free. How many of you here today are dealing with student debt? We're going to substantially lower that student debt. And today we say to our senior citizens, 20% of whom are trying to get by on Social Security benefits of $13,500 or less. Think for a moment, in the richest country in the history of the world, where we're seeing a proliferation of billionaires, you got millions of seniors trying to get by on incredibly small amounts of money. My Republican colleagues in the Congress, they want to cut Social Security. We got some bad news for them. We're going to expand Social Security benefits. Today we say to Donald Trump and the fossil fuel industry, stop lying. Climate change is not a hoax. Is an existential threat to the future of our country and the entire planet. And whether the fossil fuel industry likes it or not, we will transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And when we transform our energy system, when we transform our sustainable energy, we create more sustainable energy, and when we weatherize our homes and our buildings, we're going to create millions of good-paying jobs. We have a moral responsibility. This is a profound issue. But we have a moral responsibility to make certain that the planet we leave to our children and our grandchildren is healthy and habitable, and we together will do just that. Today we say to the prison industrial complex that we, in fact, are going to bring about real criminal justice reform. This is America. We should not be having more people in jail than any other country on earth. We should not be spending $80 billion a year locking up fellow Americans. We intend to invest in our young people in jobs and education, not jails and incarceration. More private prisons and detention centers. And we are finally going to end the war on drugs, which has been in jail. You all know, and I didn't know this until a few years ago, I should have, that right now, as we speak, there are hundreds of thousands of people in jail in this country. You know why they were in jail? Because they are poor and cannot afford cash bail. We're going to end cash bail. By the way, when we talk about criminal justice reform, we're going to change a system in which tens of thousands of Americans every single year get criminal records because of possession of marijuana. But I want you to think about this. This is how corrupt that system is. You get a criminal record if you're caught with marijuana, but not one major Wall Street executive went to jail despite their illegal behavior in destroying our economy in 2008. Now, they didn't go to jail, they got $1 trillion bailout. That is going to change. We believe in equal justice under the law. Today we say that instead of demonizing the undocumented immigrants in this country, we are going to pass comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. We are going to provide legal status to the 1.8 million young people eligible for the DACA program. Humane border policy for those who seek asylum. America must never be about snatching babies from the arms of their mothers. Today we say to the top 1% who have never had it so good, and the large corporations who are enjoying record-breaking profits, that under Bernie Sanders' administration, we are going to end the massive tax breaks and loopholes that you currently enjoy. corporations in America. It's owned by the wealthiest person in the world. It made over $10 billion in profits last year. Anybody know how much Amazon paid in federal income tax? You paid more than Amazon did. We are going to end that absurd tax system. We're going to end a system which allows the wealthy and large corporations to stash zillions of dollars in the Cayman Islands and in other tax havens. We will no longer accept those tax breaks. We will demand that the wealthiest people and largest corporations start paying their fair share of taxes. We are going to end austerity for working families and bring some austerity to the 1% and large multinationals. Today, we say to the military-industrial complex that we will not continue to spend $700 billion a year on the military, more than the top 10 nations combined. We are going to invest in affordable housing. We're going to invest in public education. We are not going to continue to invest in never-ending wars. Friends, we're going to win this election. Not because we have a super PAC funded by billionaires. We're going to win this election because we will put together the strongest grassroots coalition in the history of American politics. Donald Trump wants to divide our people up based on the color of our skin, our country of origin, our gender, our religion, our sexual orientation. We are going to do exactly the opposite. We are going to bring our people together, black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, gay and straight, young and old, men and women, native born and immigrant. Unprecedented grassroots campaign. And let me just mention this to you. The media talked a lot about something which is true and I'm very proud of that. In the first week of our campaign, we raised a lot of money through small individual donations. I want to thank everybody. BernieSanders.com. Okay, that's it. And I'm proud of it. That's how we raise our money. 26 bucks. We're going down. It used to be 27. I think we're down to 26. But we're very proud of it. But I'll tell you what I'm even prouder of. That in the last couple of weeks, we have signed up over 1.1 million people who are prepared to roll up their sleeves and get to work on this grassroots. We in New England have a heritage that we are very proud of and has influenced our way of being, and I'm not talking about the pictures. And that is the concept of town meeting. This is a tradition that has been going on in New England for hundreds of years, and it's something that I take very, very seriously, because town meeting means to me people coming together in a community and arguing about how much they're going to spend on education, how much they're going to spend on the roads, and people treat each other with respect. Doesn't matter how much money you have, doesn't matter where in town you live, you got one vote per person. And that to me is the essence of what democracy is about. It gives me no pleasure to tell you that in America today, under President Trump, the very concept, it's hard to imagine, but the very concept of democracy is under attack by a president who seems intent on emulating the authoritarian leaders in Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, North Korea, and elsewhere that he seems to have so much affection for. As many of you know, all over this world today, there is a great struggle taking place between a growing authoritarianism and democracy. And Trump is consistently on the wrong side of that struggle. Time and time again, he has words of praise and affection for those leaders who despise democracy while picking fights with our longtime Democratic allies. Democracy is about serious debate over public policy, not having a president who is a pathological liar and has told thousands of blatant lies since he is in office. I don't care. People in a democracy have different points of view. All of us have conservative friends and so forth. We argue, we have a debate. But it is not acceptable to me, and I think not acceptable to the vast majority of the American people, no matter what their political perspective is, that we have a president who simply does not know the difference between truth and lies. Democracy is about understanding that in a free society with a free media, political leaders will always get criticized. It is beyond disgraceful that our president refers to the American media as enemies of the people. This is what demagogues always do. Rather than accept responsibility for what they do, they claim that what anyone is saying about them is a lie. At a time when reporters around the world are literally being killed because of the work they are doing, Trump is intentionally intimidating the press here in the United States. In fact, he even praised a congressman who physically assaulted a journalist during a campaign in Montana. At a time when we should be encouraging more people to get involved in the political process and increase voter turnout, Trump and his administration are actively involved in voter suppression. His Justice Department supported lawsuits to purge voters from the rolls in Ohio, and a Supreme Court appointee then cast the deciding vote to uphold that move. In a major effort to increase voter suppression, Trump consistently lied about the extent of voter fraud in this country and put together a short-lived commission on voter fraud that was eventually laughed out of existence. Trump told the world very clearly how he feels about democracy and dissent when he refused to criticize Saudi Arabia after that despotic regime murdered a journalist in cold blood. So one of our tasks, and I say this to people who disagree with me politically, our conservative friends, what all of us should be involved in is strengthening our democracy. All of us should try to create a situation where it becomes easier for people to vote, not harder for people to vote. And as we engage in serious political debate and we listen to each other's point of view, all of us, conservative, moderate, progressive, should condemn a president who consistently lies. Now, during this campaign, I have the feeling that here in Hampshire, you're going to see a whole lot of candidates come before you. That's a great thing. And I want to tell you, I know many of these Democratic candidates. Many of them are my fellow senators, and many of them are my friends. and without exception, they are good people. And what I hope very much, and I believe will happen, is that we understand that our job as candidates in debating the issues is not to tear each other down, but to have a serious discussion about our views and what we would do as president, and also to understand that at the end of this primary contest, no matter who wins, and I certainly hope it will be me, we're going to rally together and defeat Donald Trump. They're going to do, and let me be as clear as I can be, and tell you what my goals are. When we, and I use the word we advisedly, when we are in the White House, we will enact a federal jobs guarantee to ensure that everyone who is able to work is guaranteed a stable job. As all of you know, there is so much work to be done in America, whether it's rebuilding our infrastructure, whether it's dealing with climate change, dealing with child care, taking care of the elderly. We're going to need more workers in healthcare. There is enough work to do. Let's put people to work doing that. Vermont is one of the most rural states in this country, as is New Hampshire. And when we are in the White House, we will not only end the decline of rural America. I don't want to see kids being forced to leave the small towns they love and grew up in because there are no jobs and there is no decent health care. We're going to rebuild rural America. We understand that in rural America, all across this country, instead of creating good jobs, instead of creating good health care, what we are seeing is an epidemic of despair. We are seeing a massive amount of depression. We are seeing a very high rate of suicide. And we're seeing in New Hampshire, Vermont, and all over this country, far too much opioid addiction. Our job is to give hope to people and end that despair. When we are in the White House, we will move aggressively to end the epidemic of gun violence in this country. And pass common sense gun safety legislation that the overwhelming majority of Americans want. When we are in the White House, we are going to address not only the national disparities of income and wealth, but the racial disparities as well. We are going to root out institutional racism wherever it exists. Not only are we going to end voter suppression, we are going to make it easier for people to vote. It is not a radical idea to say that if you are 18 years of age in this country and a citizen, you have the right to vote. End of discussion. We are going to protect a woman's right to control her own body. That is a decision for women all across this country, not the federal government, not the state government, not the local government. Make no mistake about it. This struggle that we are engaging in is not just about defeating Donald Trump. This struggle is about taking on the incredibly powerful institutions that control the economic and political life of this country, and I am talking about Wall Street. If you think we're going to get affordable loans to small businesses, you're going to have to deal with Wall Street and start breaking up these huge banks. If you think we're going to get Medicare for all, we're going to have to take on the insurance companies. If you think we're going to roll up drug prices in this country, we're going to have to take on the pharmaceutical industry. If you think we're going to end never-ending wars and lower military spending, we're going to have to take on the military-industrial complex. If you think we're going to protect family-based agriculture and organic agriculture in this country, you're going to have to take on agribusiness and Monsanto. If we're going to bring about criminal justice reform, we're going to have to take on the prison industrial complex. Now, I say that just to give you an idea how hard this struggle is. It's not a question of somebody coming before you and wanting to do the right thing. It's somebody coming before you and understanding that we need millions of people to take these folks on who have unlimited amounts of money. You're going to see their 30-second ads all over this state. Now, they have the money, they have the power, but we have something together that they do not have. We have the people. Here's a simple arithmetic fact. When we talk about the 1%, they are 1%. We are the 99%. If we stand together, and by the way, their political tactic is what demagogues always do. They understand that when ordinary people stand together, what do people want? They want health care, they want good jobs, they want good education for the kids, they want to be able to drink good water, they want to breathe clean air, they don't want wars. That's what people want. So how do these guys win elections? They win elections by dividing us up. Oh, somebody over there is a different color. Somebody over there is a different sexual orientation. Oh, somebody that came from Mexico. Oh, somebody there is this, somebody there is gay, somebody there is that. Our job is to stand up to Trump, not let him divide us up. If we stand together as black and white and Latino and Asian American and Native American, if we stand together as gay and straight, men and women, native born and immigrant, if we stand together as rural and urban, north, south, east, and west, if we understand the important reality that there is no such thing as a red state or a blue state. The truth is there are 50 states in this country, and in every single one of those states, working people are struggling hard to take care of their families. That is the reality of it. Brothers and sisters, I'm here today to ask for your help in winning the Democratic nomination, in uniting our party and our people to defeat Trump. But I am also asking your help to stand together so that we can create an economy and a government that works for all of us. And when we do that, when we stand together, the future of this country is enormously great, and I am very optimistic. Let us stand together. Let us go forward. Thank you all very much.